Good afternoon. I'm Isabella Orias, Product Marketing Manager at Security Compass. And joining me today are my colleagues, Joseph and Kristen. Perhaps Joseph and Kristen, you can tell our attendees a little bit about you and how you interact with application security training.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Rowe, and I'm a solution engineer for Security Compass, both our SD Elements platform and also the e-learning platform, which I'll be going through today. I've been here a little bit over 4.5 years now. Enjoyed it. And my job is really to help people deliver secure software.
My name is Kristen Simon. I'm a customer success manager here at Security Compass. I've been in the industry for 10 years. My job here at Security Compass is to help learners see the quickest path to value from their application security training.
Awesome. So why don't we get started? I'll turn it over to Joseph to do our product demo.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Isabella. I'll be walking through a demonstration today. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started here. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do today is to walk you through a demonstration of our e-learning platform. I just want to preface this by this is what you're going to see when you first log in, right? As a user, when I log into the platform, I will see first the courses that have been assigned to me that I can see here. You'll notice down at the bottom, I can also search for the broader course catalog as well if I'd like to learn more, be an overachiever, so to speak. Now, I did want to note that we offer two types of training classes here. We offer technology-specific classes, such as Defending Android or Defending Node.js. And we also offer technology-agnostic courses as well, like our OWASP Top 10. Now, I'll be going through a bit of both of these. I do want to show you how our courses are laid out, what kind of our learning objectives are, and how we see learning and how to go about it. And then I'd also like to take you through some of our admin functionality as well. I will note that we offer these courses as in two ways. The first one is the hosted way, which you're seeing here. We'll actually host it as a SaaS platform. We have full admin functionality and ways for learning plans and things like that. And then we also offer the ability to export these because they are standard scoring files. So maybe if you have your old LMS and you'd like to use that, you can most certainly do that. So let's take a look at one of these from the perspective of a user that's trying to learn. And I'll start with this OWASP Top 10 2021 course. So just to talk to how we see this, we've noticed that there are a few reasons why people generally don't like to take mandatory training. Number one is they don't think they have the time, right? They're busy. Number two is a lot of times they think they already know the content and it's not a good use of their time. And number three is they just find it boring and they don't retain a lot of it. And we like to think that we've done some attempts to mitigate those problems here, and I'll talk about those here. So when a user first opens up a course, they're going to get a course overview. We're going to learn the course learning objectives, a description of the course. We can then see who the audience is and the total time required, which you'll notice here, it's tailored learning. It's about 140 minutes total, so just over 2 hours. Now, when I look at the content, I can see that this course has been broken up into a lot of little kind of bite-sized pieces, 10 to 15 minutes in length, so to speak, coffee break, things that you can take. So this kind of does address one of those problems in that people don't think they have the time. But here you can actually take these short little segments, 10 or 15 minutes at a time as you see fit. So let's jump into one of these that we've loaded up here. And let's say I'm going to start with the OWASP Top 10, and we're going to go with the injection one here. So for example, when I load this up, let's start learning now. We're actually going to load up the top 10. And here in a second, it'll actually come up and we'll walk through this process. Now, there are a couple of different ways that we like to approach our classes. Number one, we're going to learn about the vulnerability first, right? We'll then learn about defenses in action. And then we'll start with a summary and actual quiz as well. Let me load this up. So when we learn about these, you're going to notice that we do have sound and we have full sound, but we also have menus and actual notes that you can read as well. Maybe you've forgotten your headphones and you're in the office and you need to kind of walk through this so we can see our menu here, right? So we'll go through this. We're going to learn about our cryptographic failures, our exposed passwords, right? Our sensitive data exposure, our thoughts, and that, and so forth and so on. Now, we really try to be engaging with these in that we have graphics that we've designed very well. A lot of times we'll have interactive sections that you can go through too. Like for instance, in the actual top 10 injection section, one of the examples we give is not even technology related. It's a real world example. For example, we'll go through an ad lib example here. We all know ad libs, right? Those are things, for example, they give you partial sentences They'll ask you to put in a missing verb or a missing adjective. And if you put an adjective where a verb is, or a noun where a verb is supposed to go, or a verb and a noun, then it messes everything up. So we try to use real world examples of this. Now, with that said, again, we go through the vulnerabilities, we go through the ways that you can mitigate those vulnerabilities, and then we go through an actual summary of this as well, and then you take the quiz. Now, one thing that sets us apart from a lot of our other competitors is that we will allow you to go directly to the quiz. And this is also trying to take care of that example where people think they already know the content and they don't want to learn it. And you may not think that's a good idea, but I'll talk a little bit about why we do. I'm sure we've all been through mandatory training, and sometimes they do let you go directly to the quiz. But if you take the quiz, it's 5 questions, and they're the same 5 questions every time. And so if you take it once and you fail, you can go back through it and you can quickly get through it. With ours, it's a bit different. Our quizzes actually follow through an actual database of questions. So if we go through this and we start answering questions and we fail, then we're actually going to get a new set of questions as we go through this. So oftentimes that'll just take you'll get from 20 to 25 questions, and you can't just do the same one over and over again. So they are a good test of knowledge. Right. Now, I did want to show one more as well, because I did say that we do have actual technology specific courses. So I did want to show you how this works for defending Android, right? So you'll notice, we'll go through this much the same way. You'll notice when I come through there's 2 major programming languages for Android. There's both Java and Kotlin, and I can pick my kind of learning path here. And as we go through this, when it loads up, I'll start to learn about the vulnerability. We'll learn about this. Oftentimes, you're going to see things like real world examples here. Like, for example, in this Kotlin client-side SQL injection, as we go through this, you'll notice that we'll actually start to get an example here of what's bad and what's actually causing vulnerabilities. We can then go through our defenses as well, and we can see examples of what we should and shouldn't be doing too as we load these up. So real world examples for the programmer as they're going through this, so they can actually see what they need to do, and it's interactive as well. Now, with that said, I do want to quickly go through this. That's how our classes are set up, but I also wanted to show off some of the admin functionality. And again, this will be available to you if you actually do get it hosted by us. We have a full-fledged dashboard, which you can actually load up, and you can get information on how you're progressing here, how your classes are doing, right? What's the number of recent activities? What's our course learner status? What's our most popular courses, our least completed courses, and most completed courses? But I've also got additional functionality that I can run as well in the ways of reports. So for example, if I want to run reports, we can run them against a specific user. For example, if I want to run one against myself, I can pull that up here. We'll generate the report, and we can get a full readout on what this user is doing, right? What's their subscription date when they first log in? When did they last access this? What's their total time spent learning? What's their number of active courses? Their activity, right? Total time spent in courses, their performance overall. As you can see, this is not a very good test taker here. But again, we've got these reports that we can run, and also we can run reports on specific courses. We have course dashboards, customized reports as well that you can run too. So I did want to just run through this briefly and give you an outlook on how we set up our courses and some of the admin functionality that you have with this. With that said, I will now pass this back on to Kristen, who will walk through the next part of this.
Thank you, Joseph. I'm sharing my screen now. Perfect. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight that Joseph did touch on briefly is that one of the things that differentiates us, a major differentiator, I would say, between us here at Security Campus and other application security training providers is our partnership with ISC². So through our SSP program, we are actually authorized to provide co-branded accreditation with the globally recognized cybersecurity organization, ISC². So currently, we have 13 role-based preloaded training learning paths that you can see here that we offer. And within these learning paths or learning plans, it has all the courses, on average 5 or 6, needed to actually gain that accreditation. And once you've completed the training there, you'll be eligible for the exam. And once that exam is done, you will receive a certificate and a badge, which you will be able to share directly from our platform, directly to your LinkedIn profile, if you choose to do so. One of the perks of this is that we know that a lot of enterprise level organizations like to offer learning as an incentive. as it can go a long way in keeping employees engaged, and it allows both the employees and the organization to be competitive in the marketplace. And that's something we'll talk about a little later. So today, what I'm going to talk to you about directly is how I support the role here for Security Compass customers as the customer success manager, and what our team does to help make training a success. And the best place to start is by highlighting these frameworks from a training success standpoint. So let's do that. You'll see here, you'll see what we consider the framework to success. So championing change at the base of the pyramid there, so to speak. There's dispelling discouragement, and there's enabling engagement. Now, personally, I think it's important that we understand the common blockers to successful application security training, as what that does is it explains why this framework in particular is so useful. So the four most common blockers are this: information overload, meaning too much all at once. We've heard the term trying to drink from a fire hose. Impossible to do. Second, the training is not prioritized. We have to keep in mind that learners are also employees, and so they actually have a job to do. This means that when things get busy, and they do, one of the first things to take a backseat is training. We've all been there on the final day of the deadline that we have to get the training done, and we're looking for that 1.5x or 2x button to speed up that speaker so we can get through it as fast as possible. 3 is lack of awareness or lack of interest. And most organizations do not provide the reason why training is needed. So the learner doesn't see the correlation between the training and their role or their success in that role in the organization. Therefore, it's no urgency or interest in the training. Finally, time consuming. And this means that you have to consider that when training is being rolled out. Are you doing it at the busiest time of year? Is it during the summertime that you're looking to start a training push? Keep in mind that the world that we live in, the society, is one where efficiency now, finding the quickest path to something, is what's important or top of mind for a lot of people. So these are regarded as the 4 hurdles to successful training. And using this framework is a big step in making training successful, and this is how. So if we start at the base, we want to first understand holistically what your organization in particular is trying to achieve using our application security training program. And that means championing change. Now, this is a big one, and it usually involves some sort of security-centric culture shift. So as a result, it's not usually at the top of the list, but more and more we're seeing evidence that more attention needs to be given to security. 2, we get to dispel discouragement with targeted training, meaning only relevant topics get assigned to the relevant learner. Now, this is something that we at Security Compass work with you to do, which is why we take that holistic approach, is understanding your organization first, but then we go levels deeper, understanding what the roles and responsibilities are of the learners that we're looking at. And this allows us to combat the lack of awareness that we talked about, the lack of interest, as well as the time-consuming complaints, because what they're being trained in or what they're being enrolled in is stuff that is relevant to them. And then finally, enabling engagement. One of my favorite stories is that in 2020, a court in France awarded an employee 40,000 euros because the employee's job amounted to harassment because it was so boring. Now, it's an extreme example, but the point I like to pull out from it is this: a bored employee will cost you money. So perhaps your training can include quizzes, a knowledge tests, leaderboards, or contests. Sometimes swag or giveaways for the learners, it will be useful. And we apply all of these variations of these in our training here at Security Compass. And we want to work with you as the client to respect whatever your culture is, whatever you're comfortable with, to help enable engagement. Our next step is having all the other pieces of the puzzle. And in our next slide, we'll just highlight 3 of them. And they are people, process, and content. People. Why people? Because people are a huge part of creating a security culture. You know who your leaders are. They are those who see the vision and who understand the big picture, and those are your champions. Second, we're looking at gathering people interested in security, which starts with communication. And that means sharing the security needs effectively, which not only why the security is important to the organization, but why it's important to that individual. And sometimes that means showing them how this benefits their career path or how it makes their job easier. And that's how you get people interested in security. Third, under people, is that, which dovetails nicely, is people understanding security. And that involves everyone. It's not just the CISO, it's the office manager making sure that the visitors have their visitors pass and they're signed in. It's developers working on their sprints and checking the relevant vulnerabilities, to the executives taking the basic training and setting that example so that everybody knows that they have a part to play in security. The second part to the process that's essential is process. Your process has to support the security culture. The financial industry and the tech industry are different, meaning that they have different standards, different expectations, and so how things are implemented and adopted are also different. But regardless, all processes have a space for security culture to be improved, to start, and to thrive, and our goal is to find it. And that means, under our second heading there, process, under process, can your process support a training program? And what makes that easier is finding a process that is repeatable. Now, we all do better with routines, and so perhaps that means that the training program or process involves doing a new course from our library every month or every quarter. So that's just 2 hours a month. But now we have a process, it's a routine, it's something that the learners can get behind and understand. Third, when it's set up like that, what the process does is that it becomes visible and it becomes easier for the learner to execute and for the organization to follow. And then finally, under the subheading of content, we want to make sure the content is engaging, if possible. I know that there are some necessary courses or chapters in courses that have to be done, but if you can't make the content engaging, then maybe make the experience engaging. So we talked about leaderboards, about contests and prizes. There's no reason why we can't make it a little fun. Making it relevant as well. This means the role-based assignments that we talked to at the beginning, Joseph mentioned it as well. It means that the learners get only what they need. So those SSPs that we're looking at, they are designed to apply to specific roles. And so the content should be relevant from the standpoint of our industry as well. This means from a tech standpoint and specifically a security industry, it's one that changes constantly. And so our customer success team, the team that I work with, has a direct line to our research team and our development team so that things change. And when they do, we get to update our courses, making sure that they are relevant and reliable. So from a time standpoint, I just wanted to share 2 quick recent case studies that we've had so that we can see all these points that we've mentioned here today in action. And the first of which is a client in particular who's chosen to remain unnamed, but is a longtime customer of Security Compass. They're a Fortune 500 manufacturing leader who delivers end customer products as well as products that are used across different jurisdictions. So they are serious about their security and compliance. Now, they started off with us as an application security training customer, and they had the objective to educate their global workforce in security. Now, some highlights from their time with us as a customer was they were able to exceed their target number of security trained employees with 200% achievement. They've grown their user certification by 1,135%. And this is an example of an organization that is not holding back accreditation from their employees. They've achieved compliance with 100% of their security training controls. Doing this allowed them to grow their revenue by being able to speak to the evidence of their developer training and to attest to industry standards and frameworks because they not only offer the training, but they have actual adoption of the training. Our second case study is from Carrier, and it's personally one of my favorites. Now, Carrier is working on, it's a Volkswagen group or part of the Volkswagen group, And Carrot is working on some cutting edge automated driving platforms and automated driving software. Some very cool stuff. You can read about it on their website. But when Carrot came to us, they were looking at upgrading their security posture while building these tools. Now, it was because they wanted to take security from just being a factor to being a pillar in their process of the building of their software, of this new software in particular. Now, the first thing we did was look at what their needs were, because we don't treat every organization as the same. So we had to find out what it is they actually wanted to accomplish. This meant understanding their roles, and based on their roles, we selected courses that would complement their roles. Doing that removed the overload and the lack of interest as hurdles that we talked about earlier. We then took the time to build their training program with them. So literally, we did security by design. Courses were split into mandatory and optional. So courses were now also prioritized, removing the time and consuming hurdle. The learner also knows what's important and where their training focus needs to be if it had to come to that. So with all this filtering done, we had the champions and leaders for change identified who helped us to support the teams as we were rolling out training. And I have to also mention the executive leadership team, which also took the training, general security training, and this allowed everyone to actually be involved in the process. So it was a true security shift. We sent out communication 2 weeks before access was even given to the learners. This way they were aware of what was coming down the line, but they were also aware of why it was necessary. So the goal was communicated. We used the platform to send out reminders periodically, as well as deadlines and periodic reports to the management team so they knew what was happening throughout the organization. Because we took the time to do all those things here with our customer success team, it was a smooth rollout, it was scalable, it was flexible. So as we were onboarding new teams, everybody got exactly when they needed, right as they needed it. And with this process, we were able to hit a 100% adoption rate for their targeted developers in training. And we're getting set to roll out another training this year. So these are stories I wanted to share that actually pulls everything that we were talking about today. It was applied. We can see it works in the real world. Isabella, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks so much, Kristen. And thank you to Joseph for taking us through the product demo. We're now opening the floor for some questions and leaving some time in our session today to answer them. So if you'd like to share your questions, you can just feel free to type them in the Q&A portion. We also have actually some questions that came ahead of our session today. And I'll start off with a question probably for Joseph. So prospects have asked us about the difference between being a hosted customer or an export customer. Do you think you can speak to these experiences and what customer qualities might make them a better fit for one versus the other?
Yes. So thank you. Generally speaking, the reason why sometimes customers decide to host it on their own LMS is because they've got an entrenched LMS that's been there for a while. They're comfortable with the functionality and all of their users are used to it. So maybe they don't want to rock the boat and make people learn new things. So from time to time in that situation, you will have clients come in and they just want us to export their content into SCORM. And then for those other ones, maybe they're replacing their current LMS or they don't have something in place. And maybe they don't mind someone logging into Security Compass e-learning. And in that case, a lot of times it's easier for them to host, right? Or for us to host because they don't have to do the maintenance on it. We're there to help them, obviously. And you've got all of that reporting functionality that you saw within the tool as well. So that's there. Like I said, oftentimes just if they're entrenched, maybe they don't want people to have to learn new things and they want to keep what they have, but they want the content. And then if other times they don't mind, they'd rather have us host it to save them time on maintenance and whatnot.
For sure. And I have another one for Kristen, which is, as a customer success expert, could you give us an example of what a customer might expect on their first kickoff call with you to set them up for training success?
That first call is literally all about you. It's all about your organization. It's understanding what you need, understanding your timelines, understanding the roles in your organization, understanding the culture. Culture from the standpoint of some organizations will not accept swag or they don't want to have contests. So knowing what lines we get to color in, what playground we get to play in there, and it allows us to create a plan for you. Once we understand those things, we do have a training matrix that we have lined up where we're able to, based on role, assign some courses. And this is just a suggestion. We send that out to you. We will give you access to our platform so you can start to look at the courses, get the feel for it, say, yes, this makes sense for this role. From there, understanding the cadence of notifications and reminders that you'd like to send out, finding out who the management individuals are, and if you would like them to receive emails and at what cadence on their team so that they get a report delivered into their mailbox on every Tuesday at 5 p.m. so they know what's going on with their team. It's really about that planning. Once we do all that planning and we do the heavy lifting for you, us as the customer success team, but then we put it in your hands. We're always there for support, but we put it in your hands. We give you the keys, and then that really sets us up for success.
Awesome. So it looks like some of the differentiators for us have really been about listening to the customer, making sure that the program is something that works for what they need, that the product is working for them. And then, of course, that we don't leave them in the dark, like when it comes to rolling out their training program. I'm going to take a pause here, just check one more time if we have had any more questions roll in. And since it looks like we don't, I'm going to just say thank you so much to everyone who's attended this webinar. And if you wish to access any of our other helpful video content, please be sure to visit securitycompass.com/resource_videos. And thank you again so much to Joseph and Kristen for joining us.
Thank you.